All right. Welcome, everybody. Everybody having a good start to NAMM? Awesome, awesome. What do we think about this music industry? It's crazy, right? A little bit challenging trying to figure out how to make some money. Oh, I see some familiar faces right there. Guitar player from George Benson and incredible producer Michael O'Neill over here. If I see you, I'm going to shout out to you. My name is... let me kind of start with this before I say my name. We are here. I heard somebody shout out, what is this about? This is about content marketing, how to make revenue through content marketing. And essentially, now I can introduce myself. My name is Florentino Buenaventura. I'm the CEO of 3 companies under one brand. EnterTalk Media is EnterTalk, which is basically a media site for musicians about the musician world. We've been doing podcasts, video podcasts, articles for about 8 years now. We did a lot of the broadcasting for NAMM, the NAMM Foundation. You'll find some NAMM programming here on EnterTalk at entertalkmedia.com. I'm also the CEO of Concerts.cafe, and we started that during the pandemic to prepare for people not being able to go out and do live shows. And we opened up a studio where we were doing broadcasting in safe conditions for artists, Concerts.cafe, and then we started a commerce piece to that. And just recently, we've been getting a lot of requests in helping artists to develop, manage, and monetize their brands called Artist Devs, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what we want to do is hopefully, and then Myron McKinley, maybe, like I said, he's the one that is in traffic. He is the music director for Earth, Wind & Fire and starting his own brand. And we started this off last NAMM in June. And we'll talk a little bit about what's developed since then, if you've attended the presentation last year. So first off is we want you to be able to understand that you are a content marketing company. Does everybody realize that we're not in the business of selling music anymore, even though we're musicians? Unfortunately, there's no place to sell unless you're doing sync licensing, which is definitely a very lucrative business, but you don't really make CD sales. There's a few. We did with Myron, actually learned a little lesson when we launched his album. We had to have CDs ready for the jazz world because the jazz world still loves CDs and people still love to buy CDs, but it's not going to keep you, your livelihood going. So you are now a content marketing company. We want to kind of keep that thought through your brain throughout the whole process. You are also, understanding how to start building your content marketing strategy. And then that's going to be really down to the type of music that you do, the type of artist that you are, because at the end of the day, your personality will determine what you're able to come to the table with content. Obviously, a more gregarious personality, one that's open, gets a bit more engagement. So we'll be talking about that. And then, probably more importantly, how do you make some money from this? Because that is been the challenging factor. In fact, when we started doing the podcasting, that's what we had to figure out is, all right, we got all these great podcasts. We had 20 podcasts with some of the top musicians in the world doing podcasts on the network, talking about their world. J.R. Robinson, the most recorded drummer in history, Terry Woolman, very, very profound producer. So we had all these different great guys, and we were doing all this great content, but how do we make money off of it? Because it didn't always work out that you were going to make it on YouTube plays or any other kind of streaming platforms like that. So with that said, let's start off with what is content marketing, because there's a little bit of a confusion sometimes. Here is a concert by Daryl Walker, a San Diego regional jazz artist. We do a lot of work for the jazz folks. With Daryl, we realized that if we do a concert with him, that's our studio. This was during the pandemic. If we pair coffee with his performance and sell it, we were able to get 30% sell-through on merchandising. So a little bit of a clip. I mean, it was a little bit longer for YouTube. We made sure that all of the sizes, all the dimensions were appropriate for the different platforms. And with that said, one thing we realized when we started doing this content marketing thing is it has to be permission based. And what does that mean? Well, you need to drive interest. So first place, and I heard this from, I think it was Wynton Marsalis, someone asked him a question, is jazz for the musician or is it for the audience, for the listener? He said, it's for the listener, but the first listener is the artist. So you've got to make sure that if you're doing something, make sure that it interests you, because you're going to need to identify with a community that also is interested in what you're doing. So whether it's funny, whether it's just straight ahead jazz, whether it's, I heard someone mention heavy metal, it doesn't matter. Just as long as it's something that you're passionate about, you need to drive that interest with others. And it needs to be discoverable. So we're going to talk about platforms and where to put it, but with content marketing, it usually is something that people will go out and look for it. So you want to make sure that you are identifying it within your text and all the other different things on what that, what would make that discoverable. The other thing to recognize is sometimes your content doesn't start off as viral. And sometimes it never gets there. Sometimes you only get a few people. And there's rules and practices with algorithms and other things from social media. But at the end of the day, don't be discouraged if the post that you put out only has a handful of views or likes. Sometimes it could kind of catch on. We had that once with a performance with Russ Kunkel. He did for a clinic that we shot for a retailer. And we had a lot of people that tuned in at first, but all the posts that we put up didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, Russ Kunkel's performance with Running on Empty just took off. So it does build momentum. You're going to find that you want to make content that's conversational, that will drive interest. That is what really solidifies good content marketing. Something that people can talk about, especially like in the post. Ask a question. Are you a coffee drinker? Have you ever tried the flavor of jazz with Darrell Walker? So you want to, when you start doing this, you want to have something that's going to be conversational. And probably more important, why we're all here, is we want to be entertained or at least informed. Something that's going to be powerful for us, that speaks to us. So with that said, content marketing versus our good friend advertising, it very simply is, I'm giving you something of value for your time. So everything that you create, you want to go, will I spend time on this? If someone else put this out, would I watch this? Would I engage this? And that is where you define what content that you want to put out for content marketing is. So in this particular case, we were advertising a DVD. We were advertising coffee to go along with it. And it turned out to do pretty well for Darrell. We used a concert. So the first thing was a broadcast of the whole concert. I didn't want to do that because it's an hour and a half long. But we did a clip and we shared that out. So that was the first piece of the content that we did. What I do suggest, if you do live streaming concerts now, don't just broadcast. Make sure that you interact with the people that are online, because that really gets your engagement higher and your retention higher. So here's what my content should be. This is a clip from, I think, 2018 or 19. This is Myron McKinley playing at the Kurzweil booth. This went viral. They got tens of thousands, if not more, views throughout that process because people were like, wow, this is very dynamic. So you want, when you create your content, should have some kind of wow factor. I did an interview with Ken Cragen about 5 years ago, God rest his soul. Ken Cragen was the manager for Lionel Richie, as well as for Kenny Rogers. Yeah, whoever said that. Thank you for reminding me. And Ken put it to me this way. He said, what makes a big artist is you need to jump above all the clutter. So he used to teach a class over at UCLA. In that class, he would bring in a marching band that would wake up the whole everybody there. So make sure you have a wow factor when you put your content out. The other point is today's social media is about being social, and I've got a little presentation on that on the actual social media side of it. But part of that is telling your story. Who here has a story? Hopefully everybody raises their hands, right? Everyone has a story. You got to tell that story. It's not just about the music anymore. It is about what goes along with this music. People want to become part of your lives. The days of Prince being secluded away from all the other fans and he was, aloof, that's not today's day. You need to tell your story. You need to get it out. Be creative and clever. I mean, that's, kind of on the nose. Everyone wants to be that, but it's really important to do that because quite often for sheer, and I find myself doing this too, for sheer time or in my particular case laziness, I won't always I'll just use what's been done or use things that have been done over and over again. You want things that are going to be unique, that will spark interest. And you want to entertain and inform people again. That's a big part. We talked about that in what content marketing is. That's again, I wanted to double down on that with this slide. And who here does stuff other than music, right? We all do. Whether we're business, whether we're we got kids, we got dogs. I like to usually point out with Myron here, he does martial arts. Share that with people. Go beyond your music-related topics because it's important. It will really make a huge difference. And the other thing that's important is be frequent and consistent. The social medias want to see that you are out there on a regular basis because usually what happens is we do a concert, right? We're doing a concert and we're doing a release and we put all this content out and then all of a sudden, that's it. That's all we have. And then a month goes by, 2 months go by, and then we do another piece, and we do that. You need to put things out on a regular basis for the social medias to really want to engage you. And share it on all relevant platforms. Not all platforms are relevant. Not everyone's meant for TikTok, even though that's a music platform. Not everyone's meant for Instagram or Facebook, depending on what goes on. So share on your relevant platforms. So one of the things that I wanted to talk, and this is usually where I bring Myron in, about vision, branding, and packaging. So who here was at the presentation before mine? So that was a great presentation on the EPK and branding, and we double down on that for you folks as well. Today's artist, and I can't say this enough, needs a high level of branding, and you need a vision to go along with that. And what I mean by that, I've had artists where we've done promos, artists from the, I'm not going to name any names, but very well-known artists from the 80s and 90s, and the videos that we got are from the 80s and 90s. So if you know the resolutions on those videos, and if you know the quality, they're terrible, and they don't speak to the artists today. The websites look like they were done on GeoCities, and these are major artists. You need to stand up above that. And I have a question for you guys. Who thinks websites are important today? Most everybody. And I would say that's probably one of the more important things for you folks. And it gets lost in the shuffle of social media. And what do I mean by that? Well, everyone puts, a lot of artists lean on their Instagram right now as their big social media piece. And Instagram's good. You need that. But Instagram and Facebook owns that platform. It owns your page. You don't own your page. The content that's there is licensed through them to be able to use. And if you want to engage anybody on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, they have to agree to it, right? It has to be something that they say yes to. Whereas on your own website, and this is what we encourage all the artists that we work with, have a way to capture contact information. Have an email connection piece to that, where forms that will drive that. One of the things that we do when we do the live streaming concerts for the artists is you have to sign up, and it's streamed on their website or on our platform, and you have to put in your email address. Why? Because we want to get back in contact with you. When we do this on a regular basis, if you know anything about email campaigns, we're at a 65% ratio for a number of the artists that we work with for opening, and then depending on what's going on, anywhere from 3 to 20% click-through, depending on what we're putting on those websites. What does that mean? Well, basically, if you send to 1,000 fans, if 650 of those folks would open it up, and then, let's say 10% of those folks click through. So you got 65 people clicking to something that is of interest to you. And it's easy to measure, it's easy to understand. There's free services, we'll be talking about that, like MailChimp. There's a bunch of other ones out there. So that's one of the key things. We made sure that when we made Myron's website, myronmckinley.com, myronmckinley.com, we made sure that all these images here that you see here are engageable. So we wanted, again, rise above the crowd. When you see that the website, make sure that your website is not just okay. Do the best to make it, again, as creative and as inventive and unique as possible. The old standard stuff, the bios are important, the press releases. But the one thing that we looked at, and I guess the folks that were here will get double down on with that, is EPKs. So this is 45 seconds of Myron's EPK.
Name is Myron McKinley.
And
musician, composer, writer. Been fortunate enough to play with a bunch of different artists, from Stanley Clarke to Earth, Wind & Fire. Music director at this point.
All right. So a couple of things that we wanted to introduce. He had a new album coming out, which is the Sound Alchemist album that was launched 2 months ago.
It's a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of bebop.
So we tied that into the EPK. When we look at doing EPKs, some people make it so that they can get live performances. Some people do it for media. Some people do it for fans. We wanted to make sure that we gave a little bit of everything in there for Myron. And as you can see, if you look at the whole thing, it has a little bit of everything. So we encourage, as you start to look at it, as you start to design and storyboard these things out, you really kind of think about who your audience is going to be. And you're looking at 3 types of audiences, and you want to be able to reach those predominantly. Unless your goal is to get live gigs, then you want to make it more live gig friendly. Or if you're trying to launch an album like we were with Myron, we wanted to make sure that was media friendly as well. All right, so one of the biggest things that we need to look at is we need to go back to the days of the teeny boppers, like Keith Partridge and all these other guys, where they had fan clubs. Because sometime around the 80s, that all went out the door. I tongue-in-cheek say that, but what they did really well back then with these teen magazines and everything was build communities. Now, obviously, you're not going after 12-year-old girl audiences like they did back then, but there were some really core philosophies that they had. And the simple thing is, your community is going to equal your goals. And one of the main things that we find today is you need to be sincere and connect with your fans regularly. You need to talk to these folks. When they put up posts, you need to engage the people that are there. You need to talk to them, build the community, bring them into your family. Quite often, this is the Chucky Booker fam. We're doing a show with Chucky Booker on Saturday. And his whole thing is everyone is his family. And it's important to kind of recognize that. And you want to engage them as much as possible. You want to also do things like give exclusive access to these fans. What do I mean by that? Share things with them. So let's kind of go back to our philosophy about the website. You've got the website. You've got now 100, 200, 300 people that you engage on a regular basis. You want to send something to them saying, hey, only the people that are on my list will be able to watch my video. And maybe you don't have access to your own video servers, you use YouTube, but maybe all you do is you make it unlisted so that not everybody can look at it. And then you share that with them and say, hey, look, You guys are first to see this. We're not putting this out to the public. Only you get a chance to see this video. It might be something that is of a discount, possibly only for my true fans. You get this, but give them exclusive access. And same thing with if you can create Zooms and other things, that will encourage people to want to be more part of what you're doing and share in that experience. So, as I mentioned, special content merch offers VIP at shows. So Jeff Weber is over here somewhere. There he is. Jeff, when's your presentation, Jeff? Tomorrow. And I'm going to steal part of your presentation. One of the things that he taught me, when Jeff Weber is a well-known producer, and he does on marketing as well as production. He's going to be doing a presentation there. But what he taught me was, maybe Brian here, my friend, Brian's been coming to my shows, and he's been really supportive. And one of the things I might want to do is, Brian, thank you very much for coming, sitting here front row at this presentation, but if this was a concert, at this show. And that gives him a sense of, I'm all in. This is my buddy, not just somebody that I know at the show. We know that, but it's important for us to remember those kinds of things. And that is a big part of, the VIP experience that you want to give to those core fans, because those people are going to amplify what you're doing. So this is a philosophy that we have as you start to look at building milestones. It's important to look at yourself as a business now. In fact, as we start to work with artists, we look at building them as their own corporations. They're their own record labels, they're their own corporations. We help them with development, we help them with management of their brand, we help them with monetizing their brand. And one of the key things that we look at is, how do we get to these different milestones? Get to 100 fans, get to 300 fans, 500, 1,000 dedicated fans. And that is pretty important, because let's say when we get to that point, we envision a subscription model of $5 to $10 a month. And you get to 1,000 fans at $10 a month, you're able to build resources for your support team. What does 1,000 fans at $10 a month mean to you in a yearly income? Can anybody do math? No, 1,000 fans at $10 a month is going to be $120,000, right? Who could build a support team with $120,000 a month of income coming in? Everybody can. So, 10,000 a month, which is 1,000 fans, which is not hard. A lot of people, most artists I know that are doing well, they have 1,000 Facebook followers, they have 1,000 Instagram followers. It's not that hard to get to that. Now the question is, how do you convert them into giving you $10 a month? That's the challenging part, right? I hear that everyone's kind of laughing about that. But going back to the principles we talked about, when you give them the kind of content that they want to engage, they will. In fact, Bonnie Raitt, during the height of the pandemic, was bringing in $50,000 a month on subscription services, more than she was making when she was touring. So not now, she got another Grammy, so she's really off the charts. But she was able to communitize really well, and that's important to recognize. And you want to recognize that because you need a support team. It takes a lot of energy to make all the posts, to book the shows, to engage all the people. So you need people that are going to help you along the way, but you need to have the revenue to be able to do that. So you start off small. 100 fans is still going to be, if you got 100 people giving you, say, $10 a month, that's going to be a little bit of money for you. So it might be $12,000, but that's still a foundational piece. So that's it. That $120,000 income might be a good place to look at it, because that will give you your foundational piece. So I'm going to shamelessly plug our new artist.
Bootzilla here, baby.
I think everybody knows
And if
Bootzilla,
you have
baby.
a hard time waking up in the morning, you better get your Bootzilla blend coffee. It's launching Monday, March the 13th. So get it and get with it, because you're on the one.
get some of this away.
Open for fun.
All right.
Bootsy Collins Bootzilla Blend Coffee,
I'm
a
gonna go ahead
special
and put this on.
handcrafted blend of 3
Fun content, right? Bootsy did this with his wife, sent it to us. We packaged it with all the fun things. But what is this? This is a new way for you guys to look at income. Merchandising, I know we used to in the 60s call it selling out. You're selling products. But I think it's a little easier than selling out to a music label, a big major label, and signing your life away for indentured servitude. Not to give the major labels any hard time, because there's good points about major labels, and we're not in that day and age though. We're now in the independent day and age. So one of the things that we're doing with Bootsy, we just started this, I think it was last month, but we're doing a subscription service like we talked about based on this principle. Bootsy doesn't tour anymore. He makes these videos. They do a bunch of different things, and he's offering coffee. He's got all kinds of stuff. He really has embraced the merchandising lifestyle, and they approached us to do a coffee for him, and we did so, much like we did with Myron and a few other artists that we work with, Daryl Walker. So what's one of the things that we realized is if we were going to help artists, we had to provide the branding opportunities for the merchandising. So we did that, and the merch was very creative. People didn't go, wow, this artist has its own flavor of coffee. We make sure that it's all unique to their personal brand, to their music. And what we recognized was typical merch is great. Who sells T-shirts, pins, whatever, has been, at the different shows. In this particular case, we suggest consumable merchandise. Why? Because it's something you're going to give to them on a regular basis, right? If you're going to do a subscription service with coffee, you need to get you need to wake up in the morning, you're going to get your Bootzilla coffee, and that's going to be a big part of what you get that jolt in the morning. So that leads us to the own branded products, and then the other thing is that also encourages brand endorsements. Going back to Myron had in 2019 that big, viral video that he had with Kurzweil. And Kurzweil wanted Myron to come back, but as we started to really build the brand in the past 6 months or so that we've been doing this, they recognized they wanted to double down on Myron. So he's becoming like a very big artist for them. He's playing right after the show. He's playing at the Kurzweil booth. He's playing there twice. Today he's playing Artesia. Tomorrow he's got Kurzweil on the Friday a couple of times, and then he has on Saturday for the big MIDI event. He is one of the featured performers, and that all came from us building his brand, because it's great. He is the music director for Earth, Wind & Fire, but as a name, people were not recognizing that, and that's how you get those kind of endorsement brands, is building that type of recognizable brand, and they see that you're out in with the fans, and also your musical friends, engaging them and doing the types of marketing that's going to elevate their brand to be aligned with yours. And that leads to sponsorships. That's a deeper piece where you get and they're paying for you to come out and do things, talks and stuff like that. So these are all income avenues, and affiliate programs also are another part of that. Just want to make sure that I'm good on timing, so we're going good. All right, so these are some of the income avenues that you have. I want to kind of throw the questions out to you guys here. Who here is doing any type of consumable merchandising for themselves? A couple of folks in the back. What are you doing back there?
Pop rocks.
Oh my gosh, that's the one grand idea. I miss those things. Pop rocks, everybody. Put your name on Pop rocks. There we go. How about you, my friend? Next to you. Oh, same thing. Pop rocks. Paul, write that down. Pop rocks. We need to put that on our list of things to offer. There was somebody over here. T-shirts and hats. Always good staple stuff. I like the interesting things. I mean, the traditional stuff always sells. Like I said, we weren't making CDs for Myron when we launched his album until my PR guy goes, oh, you got to send 100 CDs out to the press. I'm like, really? So we scrambled to put together a CD. I didn't think that was necessary. And through all the things that we're doing, we sell CDs. It's amazing. People want memorabilia, like hats, like T-shirts. So The guy that was skeptical, I would say go back, think about having CDs, not because people are going to listen to it. Everyone's using streaming, obviously, as the way, but they want something of you. They want to be part of you. They want to be in that experience. So we talked about subscription services. There's a number of different subscription services that are out there. Bandzoogle, I've heard, is a good one. We haven't used it, but it's one that I would look at. The guy from Scary Pockets created Patreon for his band, and now he has Patreon, and that's a real good one. They use a lot of the principles that we were starting to use as well, which is different levels of subscription. So the first level might be free for specific content, just so you can capture the email. The second level might be $5 for exclusive content. The third level might be $15 and you get a free T-shirt if you subscribe for 3 months. Or it could be something like, for $20 a month, you get all of this, and you get a bag of coffee sent to you every month, compliments of being a fan. So you could do that all on Patreon. Same thing with Mighty Networks. I don't know much about them. I looked at their subscription service. And then we do, we do subscription services for the artists that we work with. It's really a curated subscription service or a curated list of artists that we work with, but we do that as well. Now, a good friend of mine, as well as our lead for social media, Jamie Glasser, was supposed to be here. If any of you know Jean-Luc Ponty, any Jean-Luc Ponty fans? You've seen Jamie as the guitar player, he's producer. He did the music for the big March Madness, and when he's not doing that, to kind of make that extra income, he does social media. He found doing that for himself. He started doing that for Jean-Luc Ponty, for other different artists, and now he's in charge of social media for us. I'm going to let him do a little something here for you guys. It's going to be about 7 minutes, so please bear with me, to watch the video. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it out as he had planned.
Well, hey there. I hope you're having a good time at the show. My name is Jamie, and I'm the head of the social media team for Florentino, Paul, and the rest of our team. I wanted to talk to you today about social media and maybe inspire you to treat it a little differently than you do. Whether you manufacture instruments or products, or you're an entertainer or musician, it's always about me, me, me. And in traditional advertising and promotions and billboard and newspaper ads, radio ads, that's true. It's got to be, you have a minute to say what you need to say or what you need to sell, and that takes care of business. But in social media, being social is really important. I'm sure you've heard that successful businesses on social media do more than 80% social posts and the rest are promotional. And that can really keep your audience. So many businesses and entertainers forget the most important part, which is engagement and connection. When you post, instead of thinking about your product, your music, I want you to think about something else that actually Meta calls the customer journey. The customer journey can make all the difference in your success and your sales and conversions on social media. In the customer journey, you want to think about 5 basic areas. Number 1, you want to think of awareness. So you can think A for awareness. And just ask yourself a simple question. When is my target most receptive? Now, I'm not talking about your insights on Facebook saying that most of your people are on Tuesday at 2 p.m. I'm talking more about when are they most receptive to what you have to say. In the case of our artists, our entertainers, that time is probably after a live show. So this is why we always suggest that live shows carefully mention you're on whatever social media platform you're using. If you're playing in a smaller venue, then you can even give out cards or give out a perk for someone to sign up. I'm sure you've seen that in everything from doctors' offices to museums. This is very, very important. You're wasting your time if you don't know when your target is most receptive. So while it's good to look at insights to see that, okay, on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock, most of the people are liking your video, this is even more important. The next would be interest. And what you want to do is relate your product, your music, to the audience needs. You can figure out a way to make them need your product. We talk about demand. If you have a product that doesn't have a demand, you can't sell it. You can have all the likes in the world, but if there's no demand, no need for it, it's really hard to convert your audience to buying anything. Please think about the I, interest. Next is desire. With desire, you want to figure out a way to show how your product or your music really fits in their life. Now, this can take some doing. The next thing is C, for conversion. You need to figure out a way to talk to your audience so they convert. And conversion, of course, is making a sale. So you've got to make it important or make them feel important when they buy from you. Many of you may remember major record companies: Sony, RCA Victor, Universal, Columbia, Elektra. Do you know that major record companies are known as the worst marketers who have ever existed? And why? It's very easy. They never engaged with the customers. They were never loyal to the customers. And they weren't loyal to the artists. So an artist could have a 5 million albums sold and the next album flop, and then they drop the artist from the roster. The record companies never got it down. And so therefore, while they made lots of profit, they also lost a lot of money on things that they could have made money on had they adopted some of the techniques we use on social media, which is engaging and making the customer journey important. You know, years ago, the record companies would tell major artists, when you go out to sign an autograph, and there's people waiting at the back door, sign 20 or 30, spend 10 minutes, make sure you get in the van or the bus, and be on your way. And they did this because they believed the mystique was the most important part of all of their sales. And now, 20 years later, the complete opposite is true. You want to stay as long as you can, meet as many people, follow up, even feature them on your social media, give them perks. It's completely different. It's backwards of the way many of us in this industry grew up. And this goes, by the way, for product sales too. So if you remember, social media is not a billboard. Social media is about connection, about human connection. Human interest stories always do well. And sharing as much as you can of how things work or something personal. You want to make sure that the audience and you have a connection. And you do that by being a regular person or a regular company. Hey, come on back and see how we make these guitars. Hey, this is the new wood we got from Tunisia. Let me show you why it's special. This way you keep an audience engaged. If you just get on your social media and say, 30% off this week if you buy this bass guitar, you're dead. It just doesn't work on social media. Lastly, and one of the things that we feel is most important, is advocacy. Okay? So advocacy is, how can I make my audience or my target an advocate? And why this is important is social media is about sharing and about that connection, right? So if you can get your customers to talk about your product, to share a hashtag, to tell somebody that the thing they bought was the greatest thing in the world, to share on their page, then you're building your advocacy. This is really important. With all of these things I'm talking to you about today, it takes a little bit of thought. It's about the audience and less about us. Social media is fantastic. I want to thank you for watching. I wish you a great weekend here at NAMM Show, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Sorry, I cut that off. I hit the button. Excuse me. Jamie is really sorry he couldn't be here. That was his plans, but he's a busy, busy boy. And I think he went and doubled down on a lot of what we talked about and went in depth on social media. Kind of a little thing I like to go through is not everyone knows what the platforms are used for. Facebook is about interest. So when you're driving interest, really kind of use the Facebook platform as a good tool for that. You know, I'm not really big on the whole political scene, so I ignore it, and that's something you can do. And you can even do things like, hey, if you've got friends that are really political, just get out of it. I bring that up because I get a lot of pushback when talking about social medias. But really drive interest, make a group that is very interesting for you. So like one of the things, I'm a bass player. Any bass players out there? All right. We've got a bass group that we created called For Bassists. It's very generic, but I just wanted to engage other bassists, and we started putting that out, started putting stuff up. Next thing I know, I've got 120,000 people now part of that group. That's a way to engage folks. It was just an interest that I had, and I put it out, and we've got from everywhere from Africa to Europe to obviously here in the U.S. And when I want to reach fans that are bass interested, that's where I go. I have full 100% access. So make a group. Maybe your genre of music is heavy metal. Have a heavy metal group, and then you can politely, create your rules, share that through the groups. But that's one way to do it. One of the interesting. Yes, you had a question?
I feel like over the past few years, especially Facebook has sort of been dying down. I'm wondering, just like in your experience with this group, does it still feel active?
Well, when I fill the shows, because we do concert production, I use Facebook as my primary target for marketing. Some Instagram, but because I'm able to go down and drill down into, like, say, a Myron show. We've got a number of people that we connect Myron with. In fact, the emails that were given to us by people, we've been able to identify those folks on Facebook, and we can target those people directly, through paid for ads and that kind of thing. I think as the end-all be-all platform, I don't think it's that. I think there's a lot of different ones. TikTok is becoming really, really well. But when it comes down to it, it's still the interest platform. And I would say, I would engage it. There's billions of people on that platform that are out there waiting for your music and your interest. Yes?
To follow up on his question, with Myron being an older artist, do you think that Facebook or is it better than, say, Instagram and that kind of thing, or does it matter for the age or demographic?
There's a little bit of categories. Obviously, if you talk to the kids, Facebook is for their parents or their grandparents. So there's been that said. And so if you're going after super young audiences, I would look at TikTok as being the platform that's the go-to platform. But in general, most of us, we can get a lot of value out of Facebook. Because there is, I haven't found the TikTok marketing to be very successful for us. But like with Myron being an older audience, we did a thing where he did a duet with, it was one of those platforms that, lets you duet with somebody. And he did a duet with, he did a CeeLo Green deal. And then all of a sudden, the crazy song took off, and that kind of worked well for us. So he had CeeLo singing a song. It was just the vocals. And then he went and put down an arrangement. That's what we did on TikTok. So we try to do creative, interesting things that way. But it's not our platform for, say, like a Myron on the regular as our main go-to. It's Instagram and Facebook. And depending on what's going on Twitter, which we'll get to that. So Instagram is part of the whole Facebook family. And it's all about image. So pictures seem to resonate well. Video does as well. But when you're presenting it, if you're building that brand image, that's where Instagram is a good place to send people if they're very social media targeted. So use that platform because and make sure that you let people know to go to your bio and click on the link. There's Linktree if you have multiple links that they need to click on. But for us, the big thing is all this drives back to the website. The website to us is the hub for everything because that's where it all goes first. That's where people are looking at tours. The outreach is the social media, but bringing people to your house, I believe, always should be your website. YouTube is another great one because video is so important. YouTube is the #2 searched platform in the world. #1 is Google, which is owns YouTube. That's about expression. So you want to express yourself there. If you've got something that you do unique, do your how-to. So what was that? I just had a brain loss on. There's a guy, you guys know him. He plays guitar. He does a lot of how-tos. Oh, there we go. My partner in crime, Paul Berezeski, is actually my business partner over there. Rick Beato kind of made a whole big thing about expressing himself on what he thought about the music and did a good job and built a really big channel with that. LinkedIn, sometimes musicians forget about LinkedIn, but that is your industry. I've met a number of people that I've interviewed on LinkedIn. I've met Najee, funny as you start to think about all these people. Gerald Albright, a lot of sax players on LinkedIn. But use that. Post if remember, you guys, if you are artists, you are a business now. So conduct yourself as a business. Use that as a business tool to engage people, because what's going to happen is when you get to that level, you can get to your sponsor, you can get to your endorser, because you're able to point to that from a business standpoint. And then Twitter has gotten a lot of challenging news as of late, but at the end of the day, it's still your best press service, because it's 240 characters, I believe, of being able to get what's going on in your life out, whether it be a video that's being launched, whether it's a thought like, hey, what's the state of pop music today? It engages people and tells them what's going on in your life, probably more so than any of the other platforms. And then our last one is TikTok, and depending on what you do, it's music and humor, or dance if you're big into dancing. Dances seem to catch on quite a bit. But those are what you're using the platforms for. There's a bunch of other ones out there, and we can't keep up with every one of them. The main thing is use the platforms that are good for you. Like going back to your question, Brian, my buddy that came to my shows every time. I'm joking. I had a guy at a seminar saying that his kids told him Facebook is dead. You need to use LinkedIn. This one was actually a business platform, because I used to do a similar type of presentation for the Small Business Administration, and that guy had a government contractors company, and lo and behold, that wasn't not going to move the needle. Instagram was not where he needed to be. He needed to be on Facebook to be able to show and create interest groups that were going to be able to engage potential targeted audiences. So here's one for you picture takers. Here's a bunch of resources. Let me make sure. I want to be cognizant of my time. All right, I'm almost at that time frame here. We're getting down to the last of everything, but basically these are a bunch of different tools. Canva, I use that. I am terrible at Photoshop, but Canva is becoming the coolest tool ever, and it's free with a bunch of tools, but you can also use that to get and create really cool graphics. I do video editing. Although we're a video editing company, I don't do that. My partner Paul back there on the video does that. So what I use is Canva to do very quick things, like that the graphic, the Daryl Walker one, where it had what we call a wrapper, where it had the image and stuff. That was all done in Canva. So there's a bunch of different ones. Headliner is a great one for converting audio to video. Raw Shorts for explainer videos. Clipchamp for a quick video editor. But I found that either Mac or even PCs have video editors built into them now. Anchor.fm is really great for doing podcasts on the go. One of the big ones that we use is later.com, which is for social media platforms. If you don't have the time to post, you can schedule blocks of time and just do your post regularly, and just try to be unique about them all. But that will let you put all your social profiles in, and then it can automatically feed through timing to your other profiles. MailChimp, we talked a bit about that. For the hashtags, folks, one of the ones I use to create hashtags, and people spend a lot of money to do this, to get people to give them SEO hashtags. I just use best-hashtags.com. You just type in what it is, whether it be a genre of music or artist, and it gives you a bunch of relevant hashtags, and then you just copy and paste those. And then lastly, we've got Fiverr. Now that's not free, but if you're not a graphics person, for $5 you can get a logo, or $10 you can get a logo. You could get help with a website. You could do all these things if you don't have the budgets for, some of the other designers. You can use that and get Fiverr to do that. So that's it, guys. We are Intertalk Media, Concerts.cafe, and probably more importantly from what we're addressing this from is our artist devs site. We do all these different types of medias here, whether it be branding consulting, social media, video production, all that fun stuff. We create QR codes, which you see through this whole thing. So thank you very much, guys. You made it. You survived. Before I go, I have one question for you guys because I want to give away some coffee. Who here drinks coffee? All righty. So here's my question. How many subscribers do you want to get for that $10 per month subscription service? 1,000. Well, he got it first. I'll give it to. You want a Myron or a Bootsy coffee? Myron is Ethiopian. Bootsy. Where's Bootsy's from, Paul? Is it Colombian? All right. Oh, you got the Bootsy? All right, here we go. There we go. Great catch. All right. Hey, guys, we got cards, we got flyers and all that stuff up here if you want to get back in touch with us, have any questions. I thank you, everyone, for joining us, and stay tuned for the next talk.